Like almost every year, we had our traditional New Year's Eve riots this year again. You remember, the Cologne mass rape situation in 2015. You may remember from international news the Breitbart story on the burning church. That was, I think, 2 years ago. The authorities then and in particular the fire brigade and the police, they denied that the church was set ablaze. It was not deliberately set ablaze. That's also not what Breitbart claimed, but it did burn, and unfortunately Breitbart pedaled back. They kind of corrected themselves, and they actually made it worse than the original story. The church did burn, the tower did actually burn. It was not that the roof burned or something inside, but the scaffolding on the tower did burn, and that is a church fire. You do not have to wait for bricks to burn to call a church fire, and it was the tower, namely the scaffolding for the renovations on the tower, part of the tower, burning. So, for Christ's sake, that was a perfectly correct story that Breitbart paddled back again, unfortunately. So this year again we had a number of riots in Berlin, in different places, and the most prominent one was that in Connewitz in Leipzig. Leipzig is a medium-sized city that is famous for having started one of the earliest and biggest protests against the regime in the communist dictatorship. Was very instrumental in toppling the government back then. Now it is occupied with a lot of antifa style left-wing troublemakers. Around 1,000 people met at the Connewitzer Kreuz. That is a plaza around a column which used to be a landmark. It has a stone on top of that column that shows a picture, and actually that stone is called the Kreuz, the cross. And after that, the place around it, the square, is named. And 1,000 people were there to celebrate New Year's Eve until the situation got out of hand at around midnight. At that time, the police had a shopping cart pushed towards them that was decorated as a police car, and that shopping cart was set on fire. And at that time, the police had to disperse because that shopping car was rolling towards them. They had pushed it towards them, and they had to fear getting burned alive. So what happened then was they pushed back. They ran into the crowd and tried to find the people who tried to attack them this way. They were thrown at with firecrackers, rockets, even Molotov cocktails and stones. So there was a severe attack on the officers when they tried to find the perpetrators who could have eventually burned one of their own. And in this situation, 4 officers were injured, one of them severely. And that victim was a 38-year-old man whose helm was ripped off his head, and he had then an explosive thrown into his face. He lost his consciousness immediately and had been carried out by his colleagues and taken to hospital. Up until his arrival, and possibly even much later, he did not regain consciousness. That was a very severe attack, and I mention and I'm stressing this because the media and some authorities and politicians try to play down the situation. The police is investigating this as an attempted murder. 9 individuals have been arrested on the spot. And of course, this was not the only violent incidents. So the entirety of 13 suspects of violent crimes in Leipzig had been taken into custody for some time during the night. And we will see if somebody will actually be punished for that attack on the 38-year-old man. He suffered from intracranial injury, that's damage to the brain. So far, the media claims that it is a temporary injury, And of course, that is relative. If you're into boxing, for example, or even just American football, you probably know that many of these people suffer from, or many of the professional players, people who do it quite regularly, who suffer from brain traumata, will experience senility at much earlier age, for example. So a recovery is rather the temporary part than the injury part. The brain is very flexible. Different areas take over the tasks of affected areas, but in the long run, you suffer from these things. You do. There's no way around it. His ear was also severely damaged. It was almost ripped off. They had to sew it back, according to Taz, a communist paper. That was just a minor repair and under local anesthesia. Of course, that's ludicrous if you have your entire ear sewed back on the head. And the man remained in hospital for 3 days, and he was unconscious when he was delivered into the hospital. Then you do not just have some minor infliction. But that is typical of how this entire situation was then played down. The newspaper Süddeutsche Zeitung, which is in cohorts with the public broadcaster, they are in a research compound, as they call it, Rechercheverbund. The Süddeutsche Zeitung wrote, the injuries of the officers are documented in many ways. While the first press release of the early New Year's morning says he fell unconscious and had to undergo emergency surgery, the one 36 hours later talks of severe injuries and an inpatient stay at the hospital of the University of Leipzig. The interesting part about this is that they present information as if they were a contradiction that are not a contradiction. I do not see how the unconscious, fell unconscious part is in any way contradicting the part that he is severely injured and had to be hospitalized for 3 days. But they see some sort of unclear fact situation. There is nothing unclear about this. That is a very clear-cut case. They just want to present it in a postmodern way that, one party says this, the other party says that, who knows? And what was important for them was to claim that the police somewhat withdrew their original statement, that they pedaled back. They did not, and the police came out to insist that the original statement is correct. And still, of course, this has little to no effect because the media is kind of claiming there are two sides of the conflict, and we have now rather a discussion of how the police acted, if their tactics were right or not. And the supposed contradictions were found in the word emergency surgery. There is a word Notoperation, which everybody would just translate with emergency surgery. And I don't see a difference between an urgent surgery and emergency surgery, but apparently those hair splitters who want to present the situation as if it was unclear, they claim that an emergency surgery when the life of the patient is at immediate risk, while an urgent surgery is one that saves the patient from being crippled for the rest of his life. For some reason, if he were just crippled for his entire life, that would be a lesser problem for the left. I don't see it anyway, but they tried to make a fuss out of the word emergency surgery, or that this is different from an urgent surgery. One habitual speaker of this hard left antifa style milieu in Connewitz is the state parliamentarian Jule Nagel. She wrote on Twitter, gasp, Cops Adel Connewitz gets a new meaning after this New Year's Eve. Disgusting police violence. Run over uninvolved individuals. Crazy maneuver. Calculated provocation. She's of the party SED, that is the party that ran the East German dictatorship, but she was not alone. The leader or the co-leader of the Social Democrats, Mrs. Esken, has also said that she wants the police investigated for their behavior in that night. That's quite strange, and I see a lot of people already peddling back, like maybe the police should act differently, for Christ's sake. They had a burning shopping cart pushed towards them, and after that they were attacked with stones and had fireworks thrown at them. You do not. There is an adequate level of response, and a proportionate response can sometimes even involve, kicking somebody or throwing a fist at somebody's face, and that did not even happen. There's not even somebody who says, well, somebody was really punched into the face, and so on. And I would even understand that. I would even accept that. But they did not behave in a violent manner at all, as far as we know at this point. So they just claim that the police behaved unproportionately. And this is all present, like, one side says this, the other side says that. And as a responsible, nice, cuddly, sweet person, you always want to be in the middle of things. So maybe everybody is a bit right. No. The police had all the rights to throw a punch actually at these people. They refrained from doing so, and they should not de-escalate in the situation. It is the antifa who should de-escalate. Now, this is not the only left-wing or hard left writing in Connewitz. Here are some more examples. I have discovered this website that speaks about attacks on the police, the wider public, and so on by people on the political left, and it is called Chronic Black Blogs. Black is the color of a certain subculture which calls itself autonomous, even though these people, if you look at it, they are not autonomous. They are usually welfare recipients. They are dependent on the medical care outside, and so on and so on. What they mean with autonomous is that they want to take drugs all day long. They want to engage in prostitution and so forth, but they do not want the police to disturb them, okay? They want to act freely in their crimes, in their criminality, and do not want to be disturbed by the police. And when they say they want less state, they just mean that very particular function of the state that interferes with their drug taking and their prostitution. That's their understanding of autonomy. I have ended my last video on the cultural circumstances of the Franco-Albrecht issue with the inability of the left to de-escalate the situation. It is peculiar that they have a subculture that claims to be anti-state and anti-government and so on. These people say they just want to be left alone, like conservatives tend to say, but they just mean they want to be left alone by a certain function of the state, which is the core function, the one that's policing a borough. That's the function of the state they want to be left alone by. Otherwise, they are not autonomous at all. They're very happy to take the money of the working population. And so they have time to compile blogs with writings of admission and claims for responsibility. And here is a list. The last entry, I've opened it on the tag Leipzig, the city of Leipzig. And you see the latest one is already attack on police. They're not even hiding that they are the ones who have attacked. despite all the claim by the left-wing politicians, by the media, they themselves openly say that they are the attackers. They are not shy about it at all. The second one is an arson attack on vehicles and radio masts of the police. So it's the radio telephony that the police is using. They wanted to disrupt that and committed an arson attack. The third is the car of a security company was arsoned. The company is called WRS. I don't know this one. The next one is an arson attack on the Saxony office for taxation and finances, which is quite peculiar because I don't think that many of these people pay taxes. Then the next one is in English: arson attack on Saxon federal offices of tax and finances. I assume that's actually the same. It's both the 7th of December. Yes, it is. So that's just a translation of that same attack. Maybe it is a person that speaks both languages, whatever. Then there is an arson attack against the Federal Administrative Court. That's our highest court for issues of administrative law. Then there is a fire at, that's the same. That's again a German translation of the previous post. Then the next one is the car of a right-winger damaged. It says Leipzig, the 22nd of November 2019. In the last night, a Nazi car in the Lippendorfstraße 14 to 18 in Leipzig, Connewitz, was defenestrated. That's how they call it. That means they have smashed the windows. The next one is a fire was laid and policemen attacked. Again, here they openly admit that they are the ones who have attacked. It's not that they have been the victim of something. The next one is they have sent a stinking letter to the job center. So that's probably, I don't know, butter acid also. Then there is a fire at a car of the real estate company CG Group. That group is attacked again and again. Also in my last video on the Riga Street battle in Berlin, the CG Group had also been a victim of the antifa guys. The next one is a dredge has been burned. Another arson attack. Another arson attack. 2 Vinci excavators torched. This is all one city. This is all a small city. I'm reading and reading, and you know, another arson attack again against the CG Group. Here it says a Nazi has been attacked and beaten up. Zusammengeschlagen means beaten up. They are bragging. It's not like they claim they have been attacked or so. I could go on and on and on. This is all the documentation of attacks in one single city. It is not a very big city. Car of an AfD politician burned. It's horrendous. The 2 cases that troubled people most were arson attack on building cranes on the night between the 2nd and 3rd October this year. That was the damage. The damage ran into the tens of millions euro. That's also euro and dollar is not so far from each other in the exchange rate. That's in the tens of millions of euros the damage. And not only that, the crane the cranes, and not only that, the cranes could have easily fallen into an apartment house nearby. Another case that disturbed people a lot was the attack on a real estate developer, Claudia P. She was burgled and had a fist thrown into her face, I believe with tactical gloves, but I don't find the source anymore. That is with weighted knuckles on the gloves, and she was thrust that into her face. That happens when you demonize masculinity, when you pretend that men and women are the same and stuff, and you do not insist that men sort things or heavy things out between themselves, and that women maybe retreat a bit from conflicts, and that men use their traditional de-escalation strategies, that the actual de-escalation strategies, not letting the left get away with everything, but manly strategies as to discuss things openly, be honest and stuff, to sort things out. We have demonized this, and the result is now that women get their faces attacked with punches. I mean, for Christ's sake, how ugly is that? And this all is justified with the so-called gentrification. That means people complain about the housing price raise. Yes, the houses are rising, but that's a matter of supply and demand. If you let millions of people into your country and have their homes paid by taxpayer money, eventually people get more money out of renting out their stuff from taxpayer paid immigrants than to your old citizenry. So of course the housing prices will go up. More demand by constant supply. At the same time, you cannot dig a hole in the ground without any animal being found that is supposedly dying out. It is impossible or near to impossible to build anything anymore in Germany, and this is all the fault of the political left, and they are attacking good property because they think that is appreciating the value of the area, and because it makes things better, it makes it more valuable, and more people are happy to pay for it, and they don't want other people to move into their homes because they are open-minded to anybody outside of people who actually work, and they don't understand that of course nicer buildings, nicer shops and so on also come with job opportunities, with your ability to contribute to building up something nice on your own. They are literally fighting good. They are fighting good because they know deep down that they are none of this. That was it for today. I hope I see you soon, and don't forget to like, share and subscribe.